Guys, welcome back to the podcast in studio with the current Warriors featherweight champion, Harry Hardwick. Harry Hardwick, how are you doing? How are you feeling, champ?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling all right.
Right.
Um, yeah, just chilling, having a rare day of not really doing a whole lot. Um, Kind of getting a bit antsy, wanted to get back to the gym and stuff now. Yeah, I'm not too great at resting.
Yes, I know what you mean. Does it feel like the devil's mind, like an idol, it's not devil mind, but it's an idle mind feels like the devil's workshop or so, is it?
Yeah, and it's just there's just boredom as well.
Yes,
Like
no, I mean,
normally during the week, I'm quite busy. Like there's some days where I'll leave train in the morning and then just it'll just work out that I'll end up staying out and then training in the evening and getting back in the evening and stuff. And then it's like never really stop. And it's good. It's a really good life that I've got. Whereas, I appreciate a rest day. I managed to have a
mhm.
fairly busy Saturday, so I've done a grand total of fuck all today. But I'm a bit like I need to get doing something.
No, I know what you mean, because when you're actually doing something, you feel, I don't know, I understand what you mean, but it's like you feel like you're doing, I don't know, something useful. It's better than just sitting idly and not doing anything. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, yeah. I've been on the PlayStation a bit. That's about it.
What are you playing?
Currently, I'm playing Dredge. I don't know if you've heard of it. He plays a
Oh,
fisherman.
really?
Yeah, it's kind of like a horror game in some respects, but it isn't. But well, I guess it definitely is. But yeah, just chill game. It's
Which
pretty
game?
chilled out.
uh, which games consoles and which machine is it for?
I mean, you can get it on. I've got a PS5, which is like
Okay,
needlessly OP for it. It's like indie game, cell shaded graphics. I think there's a Switch version,
I
but
see.
like the PS5. Honestly, the thing I've used it most for is YouTube.
I've
Bit
hardly
of a
used mine
waste,
for
really.
anything.
Yeah, it's just like
Oh.
it's been, I had a big spell of playing a lot of Tekken 8, so I guess I needed the
Yeah.
PS5 for that. But other than that, kind of pointless.
Yeah. I think because a lot of the games they have for PS5 is also available for the PS4 as well for the older console.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Uh,
largely just pointless, but it is what it is.
but look, just how have things been? I mean, overall, because I mean, it's been a while since you became champion between now and between having this interview now and actually acquiring the title. Just how have things been? I mean, have people been, when you go out and about in public, have been people been stopping you for autographs, photographs, and people shouting your name, well done, congratulations.
Uh, yeah, like I do get recognized now. It's unusual. I feel just like a normal person still. I don't really feel any different. But like while we were out in, we were in Glasgow for George's fight, and then me and Leon went out at one point. Got recognized at some pizza restaurant. I ended up going to the. It was kind of terrible in a lot of respects, but funny in a lot of respects. I ended up going to the Misfits boxing card in Newcastle last night because I managed to blag free tickets. But like a lot of people recognized me there. Um, well, it's just, it's good. I never begrudge stopping to take a picture with someone. It's like their support is what allows me to do what I can actually, to do what I do. And I have a very privileged life that this is what I'm doing, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. So like people, should never feel awkward or like they can't come up to me and ask me for a picture or anything like that because like yeah, that is their support is what allows me to be living the dream. So yeah,
That's good. Despite the success, you're still the same person. You're still very down to earth from what I gather.
I mean, I might just, I'm probably down to earth. Wonder where the line is where I'll like hit a certain level of success, and then I'll just start like not viewing other human beings. Like oh, like some celebrity. I wonder where that line is because I'm starting to think that line might be there for everyone.
Yeah, I
Like
know what you mean.
maybe I don't know. We'll have to see. Look, that's my goal to push it as far as I can until yeah.
Um, Look, I wanted to kind of touch on something I heard in the past interview that you had. Your fight camp in the run up to your last fight, but I think it was probably the same thing for all your fights you've had in the past so far. As in, how have they been, and how have you done it successfully? But at the same time, you're still very much of a foodie, as in you love your food, especially your junk food, your cakes and your pizzas.
I mean, the thing is, there is nothing inherently bad about cake and pizza. Like there is not, like sugar isn't unhealthy. It's like it's all about context. So like most of my meals, I've got to make sure I get adequate carbs, fat, protein, like fiber source, vegetables, blah blah blah. But like I just stick to the point where like that's most of my food. And then the last fight camp I did have um, a nutritionist on board, Dr. Sean Aspinall, which helped out a lot. Just took out a lot of the sort of guesswork from me. Because in the past it was entirely guesswork. I wasn't even tracking my calories. I was just sort of going entirely by like I sense I've eaten enough. I sense I've done enough. I just sort of felt like I was doing what was right, and I always made weight and I was always in shape, but it was much better having a professional handle that and measure everything, and yeah, completely remove the guesswork. But I'm a massive believer that like processed foods are fine. Just like sugar is fine, fat is fine. You've just got to like have some nuance and some context to it. Like like the seed oils people who say all kinds of nonsense about seed oils. Seed oils are fine. They've been studied to death. The problem with seed oils is that a lot of the things they're cooked in are like what chips at fast food places where you need to eat like 1,000 calories worth of them to actually feel any even remotely full. Like that's the issue. Um, but yeah, I love meat. I love me some cake. I love me some pizza. I love parmo. That is the T-side thing. The fried chicken, bechamel sauce, cheese, under a grill, pizza toppings, garlic sauce, all that. I love food, but I can still make weight.
You must be one of the lucky ones. I think probably you and your brother, because your brother, you must have that same genetic DNA makeup. You're coming from the same two parents. Um, you both must have a fast, quick metabolism because looking at you both, I mean, based on what you said, for at least speaking for yourself, you like to eat all of that food, even the processed food, but you still look shredded and in good shape and still train and compete well.
I mean, that's the thing. Like process, like I can afford to eat that stuff because I'm training twice a day, every day. Like, and again, it's not my entire diet isn't processed. Like if my entire diet was cake and sweets, then that would be an issue that you'd run into a lot of problems there. But like, I'm training twice a day, every day. I can afford a bit of processed food here and there, and sometimes it's kind of necessary. Like, so if you were just trying to get the amount of calories you need to fuel your training through entirely whole food sources, you'd be ingesting that much fiber that you'd just be sat on the toilet all the time, and it would be really difficult. So sometimes the more processed, high calorie things are what you actually need. Like it gets into your system quicker.
Yeah, I can see that. But again, I think the fact that you train twice a day, you guys train mixed martial artists, you guys train so hard. I can see how you'd be
Oh yeah,
burning all the calories off so quickly.
yeah.
Um,
Like
mm,
obviously, if you're not doing intensive exercise and stuff, your diet probably is going to have to be a lot more whole foods, and you're probably not going to have it. You know, you're going to have to really avoid calorie dense processed stuff, or like even calorie dense whole food stuff. But when you're doing a lot, you bought like the training is hard and there's lots of it and there's lots of recovery and there's lots of this and lots of that. So like just need it. Obviously, again, the majority of my diet is good quality whole foods, but I can afford a bit of cake here and there.
nice, very nice.
Sometimes it's for the soul as well. Sometimes it feeds the soul.
No, sometimes just once in a while it can't help, but as long as you keep the activity levels high, I think you can definitely get away with it.
Definitely.
First on me speaking to you, as a champion, can I just get going to like just venture into your backstory and background? Just who you guys are, background you come from, and also how you got into combat sports, and then in particular venturing into mixed martial arts.
So me and George didn't really do any sports growing up. Like basically, like on a school sports day, I would volunteer to do any of the longer distance running ones because I guess I had a bit of grit about me. But I think a lot of that just comes from the fact that I played out a lot when I was a kid. Um, but yeah, like it was just George kind of realized we did nothing, and then we kind of discovered there was the demo for UFC Undisputed 2009 on the PS3 where it was Chuck Liddell and Shogun Rua, and one of Shogun Rua's martial arts was listed as Muay Thai, and then we learned that there was a Muay Thai gym nearby, so we were like, oh, let's go do Muay Thai. So we did, always a bit more interested in MMA, but we just did Muay Thai for like 3 years. I think George had 4 Thai fights, I had 3 Thai fights, and then the coach from the Thai gym moved to Middlesbrough Fight Academy, the MMA gym that we train out of now. We tagged along with him, and then the rest is history. Really, it kind of just become all consuming. It it became a thing that we had to factor into every decision we made. Really, like fighting was that important, well, and still is that important for us. And then it's just kept building and building and building over the years. So like back when we started, like there wasn't a lot of pro fight. Well, there wasn't really any pro fighters in Teesside. Um, but now we've built through. Like obviously, me and George have managed to establish ourselves quite well. We've got Leon Arms coming out of Middlesbrough Fight Academy. We've got Joe Fields coming out. We've got a bunch of kids who are just going to come through. And we've got guys like Zanya Cameron. We've got a lot of guys who are going to come through and make a big scene in the pro ranks, or a big impact in the pro ranks. Sorry. And I think a lot of that kind of does just stem to me and George just at whatever point just deciding, right, this is our life. And now we're seeing a lot more kids who are like that, and we've got to like do as much as we can to help these kids.
Is it that for you guys, okay, again, speaking for you specifically, is it that you started out with the Muay Thai and kickboxing, you said, but then eventually you more or less you ended up in mixed martial arts with your coach, Abdul. Now, I know that with mixed martial arts, in comparison to kickboxing, mixed martial arts is not as limited as to what kind of tactics and techniques you can use to defend and offend your opponent in the ring or the cage. Is it because of mixed martial arts? There's a lot more you can use in your arsenal. And it was much more entertaining fun for you.
Uh, yeah, and it's more occupying. It's more, I think, where there is more to learn, and I think where I do have a bit of a shorter attention span. Like if I feel like I'm hitting a wall with something, I can work on something else and then come back to the thing when I've got a bit more attention for it. Um, but again, I think even when we were just doing Muay Thai and kickboxing, we were probably more fans of MMA than we were of just pure Muay Thai. Like we're still massive fans of pure Muay Thai, and we still are like real. Like I love watching some Muay Thai when I can. Um, but yeah, I think that the fact that there is a lot to learn in MMA is the appeal, and the fact that it never gets easier. Like like it always there's certain elements of it that you get better at, but it never gets easier, which is to me is great.
You like the challenge, don't you?
Uh, yeah, even though like as a kid, a lot of times, if stuff was hard, I'd just give up on it. Like the amount of like I had a real massive like graveyard of hobbies as a kid, but for whatever reason, fighting's just the thing that like I never got bored of. I never I never threw out. I always stuck with it, and it's become everything now.
Was it maybe that they had a therapeutic side? Any annoyance you had, or any assholes you had to deal with during the day or week, and just vent it out on the kick, on the pads, or on the punching ball?
I'm not that angry. I mean, sometimes I can be, but like, I'm not that. I was about to say that, like, my teaching style in the gym, if people are me, just can sometimes people can make me angry. But no, I'm not like I'm generally quite a chill person. I don't need like I don't really need MMA to vent my frustrations, but I guess when I have had spells where I've not been training, I do I am more susceptible to becoming angry. And I'm not sure if there is an element of me just having a lot of energy that, like, when I'm not putting it into training, just finds some other way of manifesting itself. And when I'm training a lot, that energy is dispersed and dissipated in a healthy manner. But I very rarely feel like I need to let frustration out in the gym. Like, the gym is just a place where I'm happy.
Speaking about the gym, at your gym, what as in can you talk a bit about that? Because I mean, if you and your brother are champions, then definitely there must be a team of people behind you, corner people who are very, very good at what they do, and who and are they themselves are extremely talented. So can you talk a bit about, I know you already touched on a few names already.
Well, so like Abdul Mohammed, the head coach, like with I can't stress enough how important he is to us and what he's done for us. It's like he's got just this really good mind and this good eye for combat. Um, and then the absolute like just the best gift that he has ever given us is that base of the pyramid in martial arts, like in MMA. Sorry, like the country's caught up a bit now, but like back in the day, there wasn't that much wrestling in UKMMA, and we were learning wrestling from Abdul, one of the best. And not only like we were learning wrestling, we were learning wrestling that gone through the trial and error of making it work in MMA. Um, so I like can't overstate his importance. Then we've got Peter Irving, me and George's jiu-jitsu coach, and obviously another MMA coach, another MMA fighter, kickboxer and stuff back in the day. So I had like a wealth of experience in martial arts. Again, when he came into our training situation, he just gave our jiu-jitsu this framework that was kind of missing. Like it wasn't just a bunch of techniques scattered about. It was an approach, and there were these principles that we could link things together with. And again, that translated into the other areas of our game, and that helped us massively. And then obviously me and George are to each other, we're training partners, but we are also in a big coaching capacity with one another. Like we are each other's coaches in a lot of ways. Like it's odd because we're each other's coaches, we're each other's like gym rivals. It's kind of it's an unusual dynamic, but it works. And then obviously we've got a bunch of killers coming through at the minute. Like we have got a really good fight team behind us. That's maybe not the most established fight team, but it's coming up, and we got a lot of promising talent on the mats. And like obviously we're not really that interested in making money. The gym's never been about that. Like obviously could do with a bit of money to fix the roof. I got a lot of the equipment's old and tattered, but the main priority of Middlesbrough Fight Academy is producing the best MMA fighters we can. Like we're not going to start putting on like cardio kickboxing classes and introducing a fucking like kickboxing colored belt scheme where you have to pay to get your promotion and stuff. Like none of that. We are about producing fighters. That's what we do.
Yeah. No, I like that. It's purely dedicated to the sport. I think for you guys, the sport comes first, business comes after.
Yeah, 100%. Like we could do with a bit more professionalism, and like we probably could squeeze a bit more money out of it, but there's no point now. Like we're fighting, we're focused on that. We don't even advertise really. Like the advertising is the fight team. That's it.
Now that you've more or less, can I say, you smashed through the whole of your weight division, the featherweight division at Cage Warriors. I mean, what is next for you now? I mean, are you gonna be defending your title with every opponent the Cage Warriors guys throw at you, or is it that you do want to go to another weight class? Or I've heard in other interviews that the next chapter for you that you want to knock on the door of the UFC, basically.
Yeah, so I'm very aware UFC Paris is around the corner. I'm very aware like the routes there are less routes into the UFC than there used to be. So I'm staying ready if anyone pulls out. Like if anyone pulls out, I'm throwing my name forward. I will jump on that. I will fly to Paris and I'll have a scrap with some cunt. If that doesn't come off, then I'm not going to sit on the bench waiting for a UFC call. I'm not going to beg for a UFC call. I will defend my belt. So right now, while there is a event in Europe, I'm keeping myself ready for that. If that event passes by and I don't get signed to it, then I'll just get on the phone and be like, yo, get us a title defense sorted.
Yeah. No matter what with the UFC issue, you want to stay active.
Yeah, and like the thing is as well, if you're with them, if you don't stay active, they'll just forget about you anyway. Like the main thing is winning and racking up finishes. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm buzzing with the like if I'm fighting again in Cage Warriors, it's going to be 5 rounds. That is something I'm really happy about. Like I've had a bunch of fights that have went the distance in 3 rounders where I thought if I had an extra 2 rounds, I could have got them out of there, but I didn't. So yeah, I'm fucking. I have no bad options basically. I'm either short notice UFC or defend my title. I'm in a pretty privileged position that I
Yeah.
can't complain about.
Um. Also, one, the UFC is an American-based promotion, but I have heard. I think you did mention this earlier. Do they actually favor American fighters first over in other international fighters? Because not to throw shade on the American fighters, 'cause I have interviewed a lot of them. Um, they're not exactly the best, let's say, compared to some of the South American, Brazilian, Mexican fighters, and even some of the Eastern European and Russian fighters. I mean, do they really, as in, put their own homegrown talent first, which is understandable, but being that it's the UFC, you would have thought they would like to select the best of the best.
The the trouble is, I don't think it's them just favoring the American fighters in that regard. It's just much easier for them to hire an American fighter or someone who has a visa
Okay.
because if they are to sign someone, say if they were to sign me now and say you're fighting in Vegas in October, I would have to go through the rigmarole of sorting a visa out, and then they'd have to pay for that, which is like a big, long process that costs them a lot of money. So that is why you do see a lot of you sometimes see American fighters on UFC cards, like especially sometimes you see prelims, and you're just like, eh. I like I
Yeah.
like the upper echelon of cage warriors in this division would kill this person, but there's a bit more nuance to it than that. It's not uh, visas make things complicated basically. Hence why when it's European events, that's why I'm more inclined to drop my weight and stay ready to jump in when there's a European event because there's a chance of it. Like I don't have to do that for every American card, which would obviously be quite taxing anyway. But you're not going to get a short notice UFC fight for an event in America outside of like where you're like in that Tom Aspinall position where there are certain avenues for people of that profile to fast track their visa.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean because when you're talking about a situation like that, the worst thing that's going to be preying in your mind is time. Because the visa process, they're going to make sure they run through the whole course. They're going to do their job. They're not going to be too concerned about whatever priorities you have. They still have to do their jobs because of who they're inviting into their country. So that I can fully appreciate. I understand the reason why. Um,
Yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say like it was a pain in the ass when George fought in Contender Series, but yeah, that was it.
Um, I don't like to be too negative, but there was some beef between yourself and Paul Hughes earlier. What happened there?
Oh yeah, that's water under the bridge now. That was like I was the number one contender while he was the champion and he was sitting out and holding on to the belt. Um, and then George pointed this out in an interview, and Paul Hughes was trying to call George names for not fighting him in Dublin when Paul Hughes had been training for that fight, and it was like 7 weeks after George had his Contender Series fight, so George was just being in no fit state to have a fight at that point. Um, so there was that bit of beef, but he's in PFL now. There's no point. Like he is a great fighter. He does a lot of things really well. I'm not in the business of engaging in beef with fighters who there's no chance of me fighting. Cause I'm not in the business of engaging in beef with human beings. To be fair, but sometimes people are people I'm going to have a fight with, and it's sound. But yeah.
So does that mean that you wouldn't like to engage in trash talking because you and George seem to be two guys that would be good trash talkers in the run-up to a fight, especially on the conference evening?
Oh no, I would engage with it. I'm never too serious, but like I've had the odd bit of beef here and there. Like my last two opponents have tried to talk shit to me, and it's just not gone well for them at all. But like, like I'm from Middlesbrough, I can give it back when someone starts to talk shit. Like, but it's just I'm quite. If it comes out, it comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, you were talking about trash talking that you can give as good back as what someone's trying to when someone's trying to talk you down. So you'd be happy to engage in a good back and forth on post-fight conference evening.
Oh yeah, like yeah, it's a bit fun in it, and it's like no one's gonna trash talk me harder than my own teammates. So like the fact that I have an opportunity to trash talk someone who I'm actually gonna have a proper scrap with is sound.
Yeah, no, of course, and I guess it just helps bring more eyeballs to the fight, and then it'll increase the your fight purse, isn't it?
yeah, like it is what it is. If someone's said, like that Brazilian geezer Estevam who I fought squared up to me in a lift, like no one was even around other than like my teammates, his teammate, and then some woman who had no idea what was going on. And I'm like, bro. But it was just like, oh, we're gonna have fun tomorrow because it was on weigh-in day, and I was like, I'm gonna have fun. You're gonna have a terrible time, which was quite true. Um, but yeah, it can be a bit of fun.
Mm. Um, Look, so far to date, which opponent has been your toughest opponent? Has been a real challenge for you?
So physically, I mean, like as far as me taking damage, it would be the Federico Pasquale fight. I got kind of stumbled, then I got dropped really bad, then he got follow up, ground and pound and stuff. But when the momentum started going in my way, it stayed in my way. I would say the toughest of one is Jun and Doi. Jun and Doi, that was like the momentum was just back and forth, teetering back and forth in a really high paced fight where we were both taking lumps out of each other. There was big wrestling exchanges. We were in like, despite being in the 4 ounce gloves and being in MMA, the fight was fought pretty much at kickboxing distance and at kickboxing pace. But for 3 5s instead of 3 3s, so it was like physically exhausting, and technically it was quite difficult because the momentum was just like I could keep it, and then he would take it back, and I'd keep it, and he'd take it back, and I'd keep it, and he'd take it back. So I would say Jun and Doi.
And what is the best place that you've fought in terms of the energy from the crowd, as in where where you they made you feel with, as in when your side, we've got your back, we want to see you win. What's the best place you fought in?
Oh, the Virtu Motors Arena in Newcastle. So obviously I hadn't really fought at home or in the Northeast for a very long time. Like I hadn't fought in the Northeast since 2019, and when I fought, that was when I fought Cameron Hardy. He was a popular guy. He sold thousands of tickets because he was Darlington based as well. So like, it didn't really feel like I had a hometown crowd then. Uh, so I hadn't had that ever really that I could think of. And then yeah, the Virtue was that was something special. Like that, I'm always grateful for experiencing that and getting a crowd behind me like that. Like that is something special that I can't. Yeah, like I'll never forget that.
For someone like yourself who, yeah, I'll say you're like at the top of your game now because you're a champion. And in a sport that's very challenging, and a lot of people, both guys and girls, will have the balls against the cage and compete and do what you do. For you, I'm sure you've seen for the past 2 or 3, 4 years now, a lot of these social media influencers have been muscling their way in onto the sports scene, especially in boxing. Um, what, as in, what's your take on that? Would you class them as real? I mean, I don't think we can just talk of Jake Paul or Logan Paul in, but there's other guys in the KSI and some other guys who I can't really remember their names, but I mean, would you call them genuine boxers?
I mean, they are boxing. Like I was actually at the Misfits boxing thing in Newcastle last night, and a lot of the fights were dreadful, but like they're having a go. They're not. I don't. Like people think they're insulting boxing as a sport. I don't think they're doing that. I think they're kind of taking the piss out of the business model of fight sports more than anything. Um, but yeah, like some of them are better than others. Like Jake Paul, I would say is actually a decent puncher. He can box. Um, Elle Brooke shocked me last night. Like her boxing was actually very tidy. So like some of them are really putting effort in. I just think it's just the way that the business model works. I don't hate it. I'm not someone who gets jealous about it. it and in fairness, there's no real reason for me to get jealous. I was at the Versu yesterday, and as much as some of these influencers were sort of famous and maybe like well known in some respect, like there's not to be bitter about. I'm not saying this just to be like, ooh, look at me. Like, I've got a better reception and I had a better event that I've headlined in that arena. So yeah, fair play to them. Like, I'm not hating. And then some of them, like Elle Brooke, for example, I think she genuinely really loves fighting. Like, you can see it in some people's eye, like certain students' eyes and stuff. Like when they actually get into that fight situation, some people might love training, they might love the sport, but when they're actually in a fight that they don't like, they don't like it. Whereas she's one got good enough technique where I think she's definitely really taking it seriously in preparation. And two, you can just see in the actual moment of the fight, like she's not just being some fucking divvy, but like she just seem like she actually enjoys it. Like, and fair fucks. Like again, I think I get the same feeling with Jake Paul. Like Jake Paul can be a bit of a bellend, but I do feel like he does love a scrap. Well, not even loves a scrap. He just loves a fight. He loves the whole thing of it. So fair fucks. I'm not going to hate on these people, but hustle's hustle, game's game. They're doing what they're doing.
I mean, I think that what problem that people had initially, maybe it's kind of teased off and worn, kind of, let's say, phased out now a little bit. But I think the initial issue that people had was that these guys haven't really worked their way up from the ground up like yourself and your brother. The reason why they're lucky enough to get the kind of draw when they're going to be competing is because they've built their name up through another means. But you guys had to go through the route of training, going to the cage, taking the abuse, actually competing, doing things the right way, the hard way, actually earning your stripes. Whereas they've done things kind of differently. They've built up the following through another probably easier, not so abusive way, and they've managed to capitalize off that, take advantage of that to kind of earn such a large purse from doing all this what I call exhibition boxing or so.
Yeah, I
If you
would.
see what I mean.
I see what you mean, but I don't necessarily agree. Like, take Aaron Chalmers, for example, when he was fighting MMA, he wasn't taking the slot of someone else on a card. There wasn't like an allotted number of slots on one of these BAMMA or BELLATOR cards, and then some hardworking fighter who's done it the sort of the meat and potatoes the hard way wasn't losing out on a slot. It was actually his exposure was creating rub off. Like he was kind of, like more people were paying attention to the sport who otherwise would have never in a million years paid attention to it because of the platform and the exposure that he had. Um, I feel like it's not going to be many, but like there will be some of these kids who will start down the influencer boxing route, and then from that, a genuine like love of boxing will sprout. Um, and like again, it's the business of the sport. Like if you can put asses on seats, you're gonna make money. Doesn't matter how you're
Mm.
doing that. Like these people have these big followings in other platforms. If they can put asses on seats, a promoter's going to be interested in that because that's what a promoter wants at the end of the day. But like nothing will put asses on seats more than the best people in the world doing something. Like it's not even fighting. Like like the Olympics puts a lot of asses on seats because it's the best people in the world fucking throwing a ball or doing a jog. These sports that aren't
Yeah.
even entertaining, but people care because they want to. Like that is the biggest human fascination. So like as as big as some of these influencer things might seem, when you actually like take a zoomed out look at it, they're not really. They're never more popular than the best. And then it's
Mm.
what I mean.
Yes, yeah, of course. No, can't argue with that. The business in terms of making money, yeah, promoters, venue holders, brands, or whatever it is, they will follow where the money goes, I guess. You can't deny that. They're there to make a profit, and if a profit's not coming in, then as a business, they're not doing what a business is supposed to do. So I can't argue with what you said.
And like again, I don't think it has an overwhelmingly negative effect on combat sports. So I think it is just more exposure at the end of the day. Like, yeah, and then there's the odd time where, well, yeah, I just think it generally there was a lot of bad about it. Like I was at one of those events yesterday. Like there is a ton of shit about them, but overall I don't think they're a massive negative thing.
Yeah. Um, what advice would you give to the newer, younger fighters coming onto the scene and that they've now gradually, slowly but steadily, they're now working their way up the ranks? What advice would you give them?
If you are in your formative years, avoid big weight cuts like the plague. Do resistance training. Like I had to play catch up in my mid 20s because I didn't know strength and conditioning at all. And it made a huge difference. I probably would have been a lot further had I done that sooner. If if you're committing to it, don't burn the boats, but fucking commit to it. Like don't dilly dally about and save your brain. Gym wars they outside of the odd like imminent injuries, a gym war will prepare you for a fight. It will get you used to what fighting's like, which in the early days might feel great, but then very quickly your brain and your health will deteriorate. And you see lots of these fighters who come from these like really hard sparring cultures do really, really well in their early fights, especially as they're fighting other people who are in their early fights, someone who's maybe not as used to a fight as you are because you've got a lot of gym wars and you can like kind of go out there and have that advantage on them. But then it catches up to you. So you see a lot of fighters who look great early on because they come from these hard sparring gyms and they're really ready for what a fight is. But then they've spent all their best years in the gym, and by the time the like a lot of fighters who've trained a bit more sensibly are just approaching their prime. A lot of these guys are done, and you don't want to be that guy.
This past weekend, we had quite a few mixed martial arts events taking place. Of course, name of the big ones: Bellator, UFC 306, and UKFC MMA 33. But for you, as in, which was the most entertaining fight that caught your eye?
Um, I mean, I didn't catch all of. In fact, I didn't catch a lot of the MMA this weekend. Like, I need to make some time to watch Tim Wild versus Mark Diaz because I haven't seen that yet. Both of those guys have a lot of my respect, so I need to watch it. But like, out of all the events you've just listed there, I've watched two fights. I have watched Diego Lopez versus Brian Ortega, and I have watched Sean O'Malley versus Murad Balashvili. Those are the fights I've watched, and both were entertaining. Lopez versus Ortega was, I don't know, it was weirdly. I don't know if it was because I watched them this morning when I was really tired. I didn't get into like 1 a.m. last night, but like it was a weirdly frustrating fight, and I think I had the result of the. I wasn't 100% sure, but I think I had the result of the main event spoiled. So I was pretty sure I'd seen a picture. Like just glanced past a picture of Marab
Yeah,
with a belt and his Georgia
yeah.
tattoo on his chest. I thought, oh, I think that spoiled it. Fuck. I'm not 100% sure if I've spoiled it, but I think I've spoiled it. So
Yeah.
watching it, I was kind of, oh, and then, like when O'Malley hurts him towards the end, it made it so much less exciting than it would have been because, well, I know he doesn't actually finish him.
No, it was. I actually had Sean O'Malley winning the fight, but I know. I wouldn't bet my money on it, but something told me that Sean O'Malley was going to come out the better fighter. But I was pretty wrong when I saw the social media later on this morning.
Oh, like, so did you watch the fight or not? Like,
Yeah,
I thought
well,
you meant
go on.
from watching the fight, you thought O'Malley should have got the decision. And I was going to be like, he did get punched a lot in the face while he was on the floor, but
Uh, uh,
it was it was it was weird because it was like it was a bit of a shutout, but it wasn't. Like Marab's game plan worked really well, but he did still take damage in points and still have like the odd round where he didn't get a whole lot of work done. But again, they are two real top quality operators, so like that's going to happen sometimes.
mm,
It was
yeah.
there was a lot of ref involvement in the fight as well. Like Herb Dean telling off the corner man at the start, and then the kissing him in the back thing, and the constantly going work, work, work. It was an incredibly odd fight as far as ref interference goes.
You believe that there's a lot of interference and intervening that should never have happened.
I, I don't know because as a ref's job, it's almost like you're looking after kids. So like he did kind of need to try and get it under control, but I think as he was trying to get it under control, he was maybe putting himself in there a bit too much. But it's a pretty hard and thankless job, so I'm not going to go this to them. I just think it was unusual.
Um, Last but not actually two questions. Before I ask you the last one, um, you and your brother, so- I know I kept you like I'm not sure you're knackered. But you and your brother, do you see yourselves as maybe the UK versions of the Diaz brothers? Both champions, you're both very, very close in
Uh,
tights with each other.
I mean, there's a lot of comparisons. Obviously, they're from Stockton in California, and Stockton on tees is 10 minutes from us. Uh,
Uh-huh.
there's the body shots, there's the pressure, there's the guillotines. So I take it as a massive, massive compliment. Both of us, like obviously, there has been points where I've been quite critical of the Diaz brothers. Like mainly their footwork, because I feel like if their footwork was better, they'd have been able to put pressure on people so much better. But they had a massive, massive effect on like how I fight. I was a huge, like, diehard Diaz fan. We Nick Diaz's Strikeforce run was like as we were getting into MMA and on the come up. So like, yeah, fucking love those fights. Love the Diaz brothers. The whole reason I actually went to the Misfits boxing last night was because Nate Diaz was there cornering someone, and I was like,
Mm.
if I can try and meet Nate Diaz, but obviously I don't. Generally, when I go to an MMA show anywhere in the country, I can get backstage, outside of like UFC ones, because it's just I'll usually know a guy who knows a guy,
Mhm.
and can get a sneaky blah blah blah. But I didn't. I barely knew fucking anyone last night, so I didn't have the same power I normally do, so I couldn't get backstage to find him. And then security were doing a good job because he was getting mobbed every time he was anywhere near anyone. So like security were doing a good job of looking after him because obviously he is a big deal. But I was gutted not to get a picture with him. I was trying to get him to stay. I wanted to go up to him and get him and go Stockton on tees, motherfucker, because I think that would have been fun.
No, yeah, he was at that fight. It was all over the all over Instagram. He was out buying his burgers or something. He was getting mobbed a lot in public places by people for all class and first class, like you said.
Yeah, he is a big celebrity. It was just odd because another reason why I went last night was because Benson Henderson was fighting, and then I was obviously like, oh yeah, Benson Henderson and Nate Diaz fought in a UFC main event on Fox many years ago, and now Benson Henderson's doing this boxing stuff, probably getting a decent payday for a retired fighter, well, a retired MMA fighter. That's probably a fucking great payday for him. And then Nate Diaz was in his opponent's corner, which was kind of cool.
Last but by no means least, any shout outs you want to give to family, friends, sponsors, and even, I don't know, any call outs you want to give?
Um, I don't have any call outs. UFC Paris, I'm calling you out as a concept. I'll fight on you. Pardon, apologies for the burp. That was
That's
disgusting. But
right.
I would like to first foremost shout out to Middlesbrough Fight Academy, shout out to Abdoul Mohammed, shout out to Peter Irving, shout out to all my training partners. Massive shout out to you all. Then big shout out to Lou McCarthy and JMac, like me and George's first sponsor and biggest sponsor. The guy's done so fucking much for us. Massive shout outs to Manjaro's, Rev Gear, um, Passive Fire Containment, or what if we had to off the ground. That's the cafe we go to. Fucking unreal place. Fight Store Pro. I've said Rev Gear, I think. My brain is now. Unit 29 Fitness. He'd have never let me down if I didn't shout him out.
Harry, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm very grateful. And look, all the list of all the sponsors and the names you just mentioned, please send it to me on Instagram and I'll be sure to tag it in the story and the post and for the YouTube episode as well.
Right. Thank you very much, brother. Right.
Guys, if you've listened to I'll just do the outro quickly, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. You can also catch the audio version of the episode on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcast. Harry, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you.
No worries. Pleasure.